He sat quietly by the window, the streaks of time visible in his graying hair, now hidden beneath a dull, worn-out wig. His polo shirt had faded with age and thick glasses obscured most of his tired eyes. On the other side of the room, the front desk receptionist remained oblivious to him, laughing quietly to herself, tapping away on her phone as if she were lounging in her own living room, not a place of business. An hour passed. Then another. No one called his name. No one acknowledged his presence. Not even a glance. Finally, he gathered the courage to approach the front desk, his steps cautious, his tone polite. "Excuse me," he said gently. "I just wanted to ask about my appointment." The receptionist barely looked up before snapping, "Just sit down. Don't bother me." What she didn't know was that the man she had just brushed off so carelessly was Jackson Reeves, the founder and CEO of the entire chain of high-end medical spas. He hadn't come for pampering or luxury treatment. He came to witness with his own eyes what the reports were too polite to say, and only a day later he returned, not as a client, but as a front desk trainee. Beneath that humble disguise, he began uncovering truths that spreadsheets couldn't reveal, truths that had slowly eroded the soul of a company he had once built with everything he had. Jackson had seen apathy. He had felt the sting of being ignored. And this time, he wasn't going to be silent. Later that day, sitting alone in the rental sedan parked just across the lot, Jackson leaned back, watching the still reflections of clouds drifting across the spa's glass facade, a place that once symbolized his dream, his pride, and his purpose. It had all started 6 years ago, with nothing but a vision, to build a sanctuary of health, empathy, and quiet excellence. And in many ways, he had succeeded. 9 branches across the state. A loyal clientele, solid profit margins. On paper, everything looked flawless. But the whispers had begun to rise, slowly at first, then louder. The complaints weren't about products, they weren't about treatments, they were about people. About cold greetings, blank stares, clients left waiting for hours only to be turned away as if their time had no value. About blame casually thrown back at customers, about the subtle ways people were made to feel unwelcome. One piece of feedback had haunted him more than the rest. "It's not the service that bothered me, it's how they made me feel like I didn't belong." Those words cut deep. Jackson hadn't built this company to become a machine that made people feel invisible. He had envisioned something human, something healing. He had stopped trusting polished summaries from regional managers long ago. He no longer had patience for flowery language designed to protect jobs, while the company's values rotted beneath the surface. So, he acted. He became invisible. He dyed his hair darker, put on thick prescription glasses, swapped his dress shirt for a faded polo and a pair of worn khakis. He stooped his shoulders slightly, slung a gym bag over one shoulder, and ensured no one on site could possibly recognize him. His face had never been featured in company brochures or on lobby walls. That had been intentional. He'd always wanted clients to focus on the experience, not the man behind it. At 9:53 a.m., he walked through the frosted glass doors for a 10 o'clock a.m. consultation. The reception area was cool and softly lit, decorated in muted blush tones and minimalist furniture. A gentle instrumental track floated down from ceiling speakers. A few clients sat quietly, sipping infused water or scrolling their phones in silence. Behind the desk was a young woman, long lashes, a sleek high ponytail, tapping her acrylic nails against the screen of her phone. Her name tag read, Kelsey. Jackson approached the desk, stood politely, and cleared his throat. "Good morning," he said. "I have a 10 o'clock appointment." She didn't look up. "Name?" she asked bluntly. "Frank Jennings," he replied, using the alias he had carefully selected. And in that moment the journey truly began. A journey through silent judgment, through passive disdain, through the cold efficiency of a system that had forgotten how to care. Kelsey lazily blew a bubble with her gum, popped it with a quiet snap, typed a few keys on the keyboard, and mumbled, "Have a seat, someone will call you." That was it. No greeting, no confirmation, no offer of water, not even eye contact. Jackson nodded quietly and took a seat by the far window, where the early sunlight painted a perfect square on the tiled floor. 10 minutes passed, then 20. At the 40-minute mark, still no change. His name hadn't been called. Kelsey hadn't moved. She was still scrolling, occasionally grinning to herself, whispering into her phone, stifling laughter like she was in a private conversation, not at work. Beside him, an elderly woman leaned over and whispered, "I've been here since 9:30. I don't think they know we exist." At 11:02 a.m., Jackson rose and walked back to the desk. "Excuse me," he said softly. "I just wanted to check. Are appointments running behind?" Kelsey didn't bother to glance up. "I said someone will get you," she snapped, her tone sharp and dismissive. By 11:45, 2 other clients had silently left. No staff had emerged from the treatment rooms. The double doors behind the desk remained closed. Kelsey hadn't shifted an inch. At 12:15, after 2 hours and 15 minutes of waiting, Jackson stood once more, this time slower, measured. "I'm sorry," he said, "but is there actually anyone working back there today?" Kelsey rolled her eyes, hard. It was almost audible. "I told you someone will get you. You don't need to keep asking." And with that, the truth had crystallized. The apathy, the gatekeeping, the subtle cruelty dressed up as procedure. Jackson didn't walk out of frustration. He walked out with a mission. A tall man in medical scrubs stepped out from the hallway, clipboard in hand. "Kelsey, who's next?" he asked. She shrugged without looking away from her phone. "I don't know. Some old guy's been bugging me all morning." That was it. No further explanation. No concern. Jackson didn't respond, but something within him shifted. He didn't walk out because he was angry. He walked out because the truth had fully revealed itself, not in charts, not in metrics, but in the quiet, suffocating indifference of the room. He sat motionless in the driver's seat, hands resting softly on the steering wheel, eyes hollow. His heart clenched, not in rage but with resolve. Of all the choices he could make, there was only one that mattered now. Come back, not as a client, but as someone applying for a job at that very same front desk. The next morning, he returned. Different car, different outfit, a completely different version of himself. His name that day was Fred Jenkins. He wore a buzz-cut wig, sleeves that revealed faux tattoos, worn-out sneakers, and carried a hastily printed resume that listed no degrees, no college, just experience in customer service and good phone manners. A profile designed to blend in, not stand out. That's exactly what he needed. Carla, the branch manager, was overwhelmed and short-staffed. She barely skimmed his paperwork, shoved a printed schedule into his hand, and muttered, "You start today. Training's basic. Just watch what Kelsey does." Jackson nodded politely. If she only knew. Inside, the spa looked the same as before. Soft lights, pastel-painted walls, and the faint, artificial scent of orchids. But from behind the front desk, the serenity revealed itself as surface level. A mask hiding the chaos beneath. Kelsey sat with one leg tucked under her, phone already unlocked, iced coffee sweating onto the desk beside her. She glanced at him once and drawled, "Great, another trainee. Just don't touch my side of the screen. You'll crash the system." Jackson nodded again. Got it. No greeting, no effort to engage, no offer to share space. The desk was cluttered. Piles of unopened mail, scattered forms, a half-used bottle of sanitizer. The check-in software was running, but no one had logged in. When Jackson asked for access, Kelsey waved him off. Don't worry about it. Nobody tracks that stuff. If they show, they show. By 9:45 a.m., 3 scheduled appointments had come and gone, none of them recorded. Kelsey didn't notice. Or maybe she did and just didn't care. She was too busy listening to voice notes and giggling with the delivery guy who had just dropped off new serum samples. Jackson tried again, asking if there was a manual log, something in case the power went out. "What is this, 1995? Kelsey shot back with a sneer. Carla, the manager, was nowhere to be found. She had an office behind a frosted glass panel, its door permanently closed. Jackson saw her only in brief glimpses. A turn back, a tablet in hand, earbuds in place. She emerged only once that morning, barking at a technician for double booking a treatment room, then disappearing again like a ghost with a job title. By late morning, Jackson had seen enough. The truth was unmistakable. Kelsey wasn't just untrained, she was unsupervised. No accountability, no oversight, no standard. She hadn't just dropped the ball, she had no idea it existed in the first place. But in the midst of all that dysfunction, something else caught his eye. A woman in her early 30s walked briskly past the front desk, pushing a cart piled high with fresh towels. Her name tag read Shayla. Unlike Kelsey, she didn't chat. She didn't scroll through her phone. She moved with purposeful precision, folding towels neatly, rearranging product displays for symmetry, wiping down fingerprint smudges on the glass doors that no one else had even noticed. "You're new?" she asked, glancing at him mid-step. "Yeah," Jackson replied. "Fred." She gave a small smile, kind but worn. "Good luck. This place. It's something." Over the next hour, Jackson watched her closely. When Kelsey vanished again, Shayla stepped in without a word. When a client was left unattended, she brought tea. When a confused walk-in inquired about pricing, she calmly pulled out a brochure, walked them through the options, and circled her personal recommendation. No fanfare. No ego. Just quiet, competent presence. By noon, Jackson sat alone in the break room, chewing through a granola bar. That's when he heard the voice. Familiar and jarring from just around the corner. I don't know. Some old dude waited forever yesterday and totally lost it. Like, chill, this isn't a hospital. Kelsey laughed into her phone. That old dude was him. Jackson stared at his hands. They weren't trembling, not yet, but the heat rising inside him was impossible to ignore. This wasn't just laziness. It wasn't even neglect. This was disrespect. To clients, to the mission, and most of all, to people like Shayla, who still believed in doing the job the right way, even when no one seemed to care. He drew a breath, finished the last bite, and stood. Tomorrow, he'd return. But not to observe. Now, it was time to act. The next morning, Jackson arrived 5 minutes early. The hallway lights were still dim. The waiting room was silent. The scent diffusers hadn't been turned on. There were no soft greetings, no music. Only the hum of a vent overhead. As he passed the front desk, he noticed Kelsey's iced coffee already dripping condensation onto a pile of unopened envelopes, but she was nowhere to be seen. Then came the sound of soft footsteps behind him. Shayla appeared, already in uniform, pushing a cart stacked with neatly folded towels and freshly replenished serum bottles. "You're early," she said without pausing. "Trying to make a good impression," Jackson replied. She gave a knowing nod and continued down the treatment hallway. He took a seat behind the reception desk, unsure if he should even try logging in. No one had formally trained him. Out of curiosity, he tapped a few keys, but the system was locked by password. The reception phone rang once, then stopped. He didn't answer. It wasn't his turn yet. At 8:22, Kelsey walked in. She wore sunglasses and had a phone pressed to her ear, already radiating boredom. "I told you, if that guy's still upset about yesterday, whatever," she said, tossing her tote bag onto the desk. "I've got work to do. Bye. She sat down, pulled her iced coffee close, opened Instagram. No apology for her lateness. No acknowledgement of Jackson. A few minutes later, a woman in her early 60s entered the lobby, walking with a slight limp and holding a printed confirmation. "I have an appointment with Dr. Patel at 8:30, she said gently. Kelsey glanced at the wall clock, then her phone. "Not time yet, wait," she replied dismissively. The older woman hesitated. "I left work early to make it on time." "Then just sit," Kelsey retorted, unemotional. Jackson stepped forward. "Would you like me to check the schedule? I'm still learning, but I can try." Kelsey shot him a flat look. "I said 8:30. Means 8:30. The woman quietly sat down, discomfort apparent in every line on her face. At 8:45, Dr. Patel walked in through the staff entrance, his expression concerned. "Mrs. Hill here yet?" he asked. "She's been waiting 15 minutes, Jackson replied. Patel turned to Kelsey. "Why didn't you page me?" "You weren't here," she snapped. "I've been in my office since 8:10, the doctor said, calm yet firm. "Not my fault you didn't greet me," she mumbled. "Please, send her in," Dr. Patel sighed, shaking his head. Later, Jackson quietly asked Kelsey, "Do you always wait to page the provider when a patient arrives?" "They know their schedule," she answered without looking up. "I'm not their babysitter." Jackson said nothing, but mentally logged every moment. Her tone, her eyes, the way she carried her authority like a shield. Late morning, Carla, the branch manager, appeared for the first time. Dressed in a tight black sweater and holding a tablet, she didn't look up as she passed the desk. "Fred," she said, addressing him. "You're on laundry today. Shayla will handle the front desk." "Well, me," Kelsey interrupted. Carla didn't pause. She walked away. Shayla emerged, rubbing her hands on a cloth. "I haven't done the front desk in weeks," she whispered. Jackson offered, if you'd rather swap. She shook her head. "No thanks, I don't need a fight." Behind the desk, she settled into her role, quick, courteous, fully present. In 10 minutes, Shayla checked in 2 clients, answered a billing question, and printed a lost insurance receipt for a man who'd misplaced his paperwork. She never raised her voice, never rushed, but she never stopped moving. Reliable, capable, calm under pressure. At noon, Carla called for a staff meeting. The break room had barely enough chairs. Jackson stood in the corner, notebook tucked in his pocket. "Listen up," Carla started, pacing in front of the dusty whiteboard. "Corporate is breathing down my neck. Upsells are down, reviews are grudging, retention is slipping. We need push facials. You pitch a peel, massage, you offer the deluxe. Don't let anyone walk out without their next appointment. Understood?" Shayla raised her hand. "Some clients still mention long wait times. Maybe if we had one more person at the desk." "We don't have the budget," Carla snapped. "Everyone's doing more with less. That's the job." Meanwhile, Kelsey sat in the corner, phone hidden under the table, a silent counterpoint to Carla's demands. Carla continued, "Also, someone's been cleaning too much. I'm not naming names, but stop wasting product or time scrubbing things that don't need it." Shayla's gaze dropped. The meeting ended in silence. As guests filed out, Jackson approached Carla. "I'm still new. Anyone I should shadow?" She didn't look at him. "Figure it out yourself. Don't get in anyone's way." She walked off before he could respond. Shayla stepped forward, meeting the tense moment with quiet assurance. "Please wait a moment. I'll print out your visit history," she said gently. The older woman nodded, relief washing over her features. Kelsey muttered loudly enough for anyone to hear. "Some people just love drama." Emerging from the shadows, Jackson's voice was steady but firm. "That comment wasn't necessary." Kelsey snapped back, turning her head, a smug smile playing on her lips. You're not even a full-time employee. Stay out of other people's business." Shayla returned with 2 printed pages and handed them to the woman. "Here you go. The system shows 2 visits, but the first was a software error. I'll make sure it's deleted right away." The woman's shoulders relaxed, gratitude shining in her eyes. "Thank you. That's all I needed." After the customer left, Kelsey tossed her hands in the air and scoffed. "Whatever." But Jackson didn't return to the towel cart. Instead, he walked purposefully into the break room, grabbed his phone, and dialed the regional HR representative. "She needs to be replaced. Today," he said with quiet determination. "There's no fixing this, and I'm not waiting until the end of the week." The next morning, Jackson entered through the staff door, clock just shy of 8 o'clock. The waiting room was calm, bathed in the soft instrumental music that drifted down from ceiling speakers. Shayla was already there, folding crisp towels and inspecting the expiration dates on serum bottles, treating every detail with quiet care, almost as if her integrity depended on it. At 8:14, Kelsey breezed in late, as usual. Her sunglasses covered half her face. Her phone was already pressed to her ear. "Told you, scales don't lie. You can't walk into a med spa and expect miracles," she said, her tone sharp as a blade. Jackson wiped the countertop, not letting her presence distract him. Kelsey unceremoniously dropped her tote bag on the desk, sighed audibly, and plopped down without glancing his way. She pulled her iced coffee closer and began scrolling through Instagram, as though work was somebody else's concern. A few minutes later, the front doors opened. A woman in her 30s stepped in, impeccably dressed but visibly nervous. Her full figure made her step hesitantly, as though every footfall amplified her self-consciousness. Her eyes searched for someone to guide her. Kelsey shot a dismissive glance, then whispered to a passing esthetician loud enough to be heard. "Guess she thinks this place does magical weight loss." The technician paused mid-step, forced a polite smile, and quickly moved on. The woman approached the desk, offering her printed confirmation. "Hi, I have an appointment for a consultation. I responded to your laser hair removal ad," she said softly. Kelsey didn't so much as smile. She stared the woman up and down before asking, "Are you thinking about arms or the combo?" Her finger traced a slow circle through the air, pointing towards the woman's torso, weighing, sizing, judging her. The woman blinked, voice barely audible. "Just arms." Kelsey raised an eyebrow and smirked. "We also have a full-body special, bikini, stomach, you know." No warmth, no humor, just a cold implication. The woman flushed, fingers tightened around the paper. A forced smile flickered and fell flat. She ducked her head and remained silent. Then Shayla quietly appeared from behind the desk, as though she had quietly stepped in just in time. "Let me help you," she said softly. "Please come into the consultation room. I'll explain everything privately." The woman gave a small, grateful nod and followed Shayla, as if the last thread of hope had just been offered to her. Shayla didn't look at Kelsey, but Jackson saw it, her eyes fleeting with something colder than anger or fear, disgust, disappointment. She turned and walked away, leaving only silence behind her. Kelsey returned to her phone, as if nothing had just happened. Jackson remained standing at the counter, hands resting flat, inhaling the steady, perfumed hume in the air. The first appointment of the day walked past without a hello. Behind them, the door clicked closed on Shayla and the woman. Kelsey was now watching a lip-plumping video and laughing quietly to herself. But Jackson didn't move. Not startled by the harsh words, not by the silent shaming Kelsey had unloaded, but by how utterly normal it had all seemed. Like clocking in was paired with belittling clients. Every morning, nobody stopped her. Not the esthetician walking by, not the hallway nurse, not Carla, hiding behind frosted glass like a silent authority. Jackson stepped away from the desk, heading down the back hallway, stopping just outside the supply room. He let the air settle, allowed his hands to steady again. That woman came here for care, for support. What she found was judgment disguised as professionalism. And Jackson was done watching. "It might be a system glitch," Shayla explained calmly to the customer. "I'll flag it and make the correction." The woman's shoulders eased, the tension in her face melting into relief. "That's all I needed, thank you." She left without another word, leaving behind a stillness that lingered. Kelsey rolled her eyes and muttered loud enough to hear, "Some people just love making things dramatic." Jackson didn't return to the laundry room. Instead, he walked straight into the break room, the dim flicker of the fluorescent light humming overhead. He sat at a side table and pulled out his phone. Without hesitation, his fingers scrolled through contacts until they stopped on a name he knew too well. Regina Maddox, Regional HR Director. He'd personally recruited her 2 years ago. "This is Regina," her voice answered. "This is Jackson Reeves," he said firmly, evenly. "I need you at location 5 today." "Is everything okay?" she asked, her tone shifting. "No." His voice was calm, not angry, not emotional, just the final verdict of a man who had seen too much. "She needs to be let go. Today. There's nothing left to salvage." A brief pause. "Understood," Regina replied. By 4:30 p.m., Regina walked in through the employee entrance wearing a charcoal gray suit and soft-soled leather shoes that made no sound. She didn't wear a name badge. She didn't stop at the front desk. She went straight to the back office and requested to see Kelsey. Carla, behind her desk, frowned. "She's not scheduled for a review." "It's just a routine employee check-in," Regina replied, her tone unchanging. Kelsey followed her in with an indifferent expression, as if this were just another day. 10 minutes passed, then 15. At 4:55 p.m., Kelsey exited, her shoulder bag slung carelessly and an unfinished iced coffee in hand. No shouting, no tears, just a hollow expression as she walked straight out the front door. Chyla looked up from the front desk and whispered, "What happened?" Jackson didn't answer. He simply grabbed a broom and began sweeping the lobby floor. That night, he stayed late to help Shayla close. A trainee wasn't expected to do that, but no one questioned it. With Kelsey gone, the front desk finally felt quiet. Not the unnerving kind of silence, but a soft stillness, absent of scoffs and careless jabs. Shayla completed her end-of-day tasks with precision, logging therapy notes, rescheduling a last-minute appointment. She occasionally guided Jackson, always patient, never condescending. As they locked up, Shayla turned to him with a tired smile. "Don't take this the wrong way, Fred," she said, "but newbies usually don't last more than 3 days here." Jackson nodded slowly. "I'm good, I just want to understand how things really work here." She looked at him, longer than usual, then nodded back. Her silhouette shrank as she walked to her car under the fading evening light. The next morning, Carla arrived early. The sharp click of her heels echoed like a warning down the tiled hallway. At 8:10, she gathered everyone behind the front desk. Her tone was clipped from the first word. "A quick update," she started, eyes avoiding contact. "Kelsey is no longer with us. HR took care of it. That's it. No explanation, no ownership, just a shrug, as if nothing worth mentioning had happened. Until someone new is hired, I'll step in to assist at the front desk during peak hours," she added, glancing at Shayla with a flick of judgment. "Let's all remember our roles. No one steps outside their scope." Then she pivoted, moving on without missing a beat. "We've got a compliance audit next week. I want every station spotless, no excuses." Jackson stayed silent, but the words formed clearly in his mind. "She chooses appearance over experience. control over care. The tension that returned that day wasn't the usual chaos. It was colder, calculated. Carla didn't support, she scrutinized. She realigned display angles, snapped at a tech for missing an essential oil spray, changed Shayla's shift with no warning. She didn't greet clients, didn't check on overworked staff, just orders, just corrections. Around noon, a young man in a green hoodie and jeans walked into the spa, holding a thin folder. He hovered near the entrance, uncertain. Shayla stepped from behind the desk. "Hi there, how can I help you?" "I'm here to drop off my paperwork. They told me to bring this. I'm Jamal." "Great, please have a seat," Shayla said kindly. "I'll pull up your file now." Jackson stood nearby, restocking new serum bottles, observing silently. Jamal looked nervous, fingers fiddling with his jacket zipper, eyes darting from floor to counter. That's when Carla stepped in, her voice slicing the air. "What's going on here?" "New intake," Shayla responded calmly. "He has an appointment and all the paperwork." Carla narrowed her eyes at the folder. "Did you confirm his referral source?" "I'm working on it now," Shayla said. "You'll need to wait. This isn't a walk-in clinic." Carla turned to Jamal. "You didn't call ahead." "I did," Jamal mumbled. "Last week." Carla's voice dropped, sharp and low. "What was the referral site?" Before Jamal could answer, Shayla stepped in. "I've got the confirmation email. He's on the schedule for 12:15. Carla paused, said nothing, then turned and walked away. Jamal looked down, embarrassed. "You're fine," Shayla said gently. "She's just very thorough." Jackson witnessed it all. Something shifted inside him. Carla's tone wasn't neutral, not routine business. It was cold, disdainful, and laden with intent. That afternoon, Jackson found Shayla in the supply closet folding cotton pads. "Does she always talk to clients like that?" he asked quietly. Shayla turned to him, her face unreadable. "Only to certain people." Jackson didn't need more explanation. He understood. "Why hasn't anyone reported it?" "Some have," Shayla said, "but HR keeps changing. Nothing sticks." "Has she ever confronted you directly?" "Not in words." Shayla paused, "but I felt it. She checks my clock in times when she doesn't for others. I lose hours, new hires get extra." Jackson watched the neat stacks of towels. "I don't need her to like me," Shayla continued. "I come in, do my job, then leave. But when she treats customers like that, that's what bothers me." He said nothing. The words that needed saying were near and soon would be heard, clearly, unmistakably. Carla wasn't running a spa. She was running a gate. Each day she decided who got to pass through, silently, subtly. Without announcement, without ceremony, no speech echoed, just a locked door, an open laptop, and a call made at 7:03 a.m. Jackson sat alone in the employee break room as the door closed behind him. For the first time since entering under false identity, he shed the disguise. The faded polo was replaced by a crisp navy button-down, the thick glasses tucked away, and for the first time he stood in that place as himself, visible, uncovered. When Carla walked into the hallway just before 8 a.m., she was flanked by 2 regional executives and a silent HR rep. Her face went taut. Her eyes flicked to where Jackson stood at the front desk. Shayla was already there, anxious at the sudden crowd of unfamiliar faces. "What's happening?" she whispered. Jackson turned to her and nodded. Not Fred. Jackson Reeves, the CEO, founder, real owner of this place. Shayla's jaw clenched, but she said nothing. She only watched. They moved Carla behind a closed office door. Instantly the lobby fell into a different kind of silence. A client folding a magazine sensed the tension. Another pretended to scroll his phone. 10 minutes passed, then 15. When the office door finally reopened, Carla did not emerge. Instead, a district director stepped out, clipboard in hand. Shayla watched, breathing held. Jackson gathered everyone near the front desk. Therapists, estheticians, part-timers who normally stayed hidden in corners. Phones continued to ring. Clients waited, but everyone was listening. "I came here under a different name," Jackson began, "because what I'd heard from the outside didn't match what I believed this place stood for." He turned to Shayla. "Some of you showed integrity even when nobody was watching." No need to name them. Everyone knew who he meant. Shayla's cheeks flushed and her gaze dropped. "But some use their position to make people feel small. That ends today." The therapist covered her mouth. Another nodded, eyes wide. Jackson's voice steadied. "Leadership isn't about controlling a place. It's about protecting it, lifting it up, ensuring that anyone who walks through that door, client or team member, feels safe and respected." He paused. "From this moment forward, no more hidden power plays, no more intimidation disguised as policy, no more deciding who belongs based on favoritism." He looked toward the back hallway, and then down at the desk where Kelsey once sat. "This place doesn't need a makeover, it needs an awakening." The front doors opened once more. A new client stepped in, but nobody moved. For a few suspended moments, time paused between past and future. Jackson stepped forward, extended his hand to Shayla. "You've been holding this place together far longer than you should have," he said. "It's time everyone recognized that." Shayla didn't reply. She nodded, small, sharp, like someone who finally exhaled after years of holding her breath. The rest of the day unfolded differently, quiet, but with a new rhythm. Staff moved more gently, clients were greeted sooner. Fear was replaced by faith. When Jackson left at closing, he wore no disguise. He carried clarity. He had discovered not just a breakdown in policy, but a breakdown in values, and he knew where to begin fixing it. 2 weeks later, the lobby looked the same white orchids, soft lighting, lavender fragrance in the air, but something felt different. The front desk was neat, welcoming. More importantly, it truly invited people in. Shayla stood behind it, not as a temp, not just the quiet one who held it together. She was now the assistant operations manager. Her brass nameplate hadn't arrived yet, but nobody needed it. She had earned the role through her work. That afternoon, Jackson returned. No disguise, no announcement, just himself. He didn't seek applause. He walked in like any client and watched Shayla walk a nervous woman through an intake form. Shayla smiled, cracked a gentle joke, offered tea, patiently guided her through every line. When the woman left, visibly calmer, Jackson stepped forward. "Looks like you've got this under control," he said. Shayla smiled. "Warmer than before. Still growing." "Aren't we all?" Jackson replied. They stood together, two people who had witnessed the worst of a system and chose not to walk away, not out of duty, but belief. That dignity isn't a privilege. It's foundational. It belongs to everyone who steps across that threshold. Shayla looked toward the waiting room, then back at Jackson. "You don't have to come back," she said. "I do," Jackson answered, "because what you're doing here, that's what leadership looks like." Shayla didn't say thank you. She didn't need to. She just nodded and turned back to work. Jackson left that day with a quiet certainty. The building may not have changed. Policies may not have been rewritten, but culture, true culture, was shifting. And it started with someone who chose to care, out loud, without compromise. Leadership sometimes wears a badge, sometimes folds towels in silence, sometimes just looks you in the eye and says, "You belong here." Whatever form it takes, it always begins with one choice: to care, publicly, firmly and without compromise.